For them, he's going to be the Simmons Department of Religion chairperson.
Simmons College, in collaboration with the Angela Project, presents 40 Days of Prayer for the Liberation of American Descendants of Slavery. Biblically, the number 40 represents a period of testing, trial, or probation. So we are inviting you to join us in 40 Days of Prayer as we observe this 400th anniversary of enslavement in America.
Beginning July the 12th and concluding August the 20th, Christians and justice-loving people from around the world will pause to commemorate 400 years of slavery, so we might reflect on where we have been and project a new course for race relations in America.
For each of the 40 days, there will be facts surrounding slavery and Black oppression in America, and we are the voice of one, prayer declarations. Also, read the actual stories of enslaved people escaping captivity through the Underground Railroad.
We who are the American descendants of slaves realize that we did not come to this country seeking a better life. We were brought against our will to help others have a better life. It's called slavery. The first woman was a woman named Angela, and that began the sad tradition of enslavement in this country. We will pause to remember their pain and project a new future.
On August 20th, at the culmination of the 40 Days of Prayer, the ceremony book will be used in services held across this nation in commemoration of this 400th year of slavery in America. So let's go global with this initiative and show the world the power of prayer. 40 days, 400 years.
Hey church family, how are you doing? I'm here with a wonderful group of kids. This is the Masterclass Summer Enrichment Program. And kids,
these are your church announcements.
Family Life Center Incorporated presents the Hustle and Motivate Youth Conference, Thursday, August 1st and Friday, August 2nd. This conference will be jam-packed with information and inspiration for our young people. There will be back-to-school giveaways, free lunch, and a college showcase. Vending opportunities are still available. Conference and vending registration is available at eventbrite.com. For more information, contact Lanisha Porter at lporter@ssclive.org. Look out, Louisville. We are taking over. It's the St. Stephen Church Takeover on 4th Street Live, Sunday, August 18th at 6 p.m. It's time for us to celebrate all of our new members with our new members reception. Members from all campuses are invited to come on out and fellowship with our pastor and First Lady Cosby. Saturday, August 10th at 1 p.m. at the Louisville Campus Chapel. The St. Stephen Men's Ministry presents their kickoff prayer breakfast on Saturday, August 3rd, 9 a.m. inside of the Family Life Center. The special guest speaker will be our pastor, Reverend Dr. Kevin W. Cosby. The St. Stephen Kingdom Kids Sunday School Children's Ministry presents the Back to School Block Party, Saturday, August 3rd from 2 to 5 p.m. at our Louisville campus. There will be health screenings, dental screenings. JCPS will share info on how to get new uniforms, school supplies, and much more. Please note that all children must be accompanied by a guardian, and each child will receive only one backpack. And we're super excited to have Dr. Beverly Gaines and Associates handling our free physicals. For more information, contact Karen Childress at kchildress@ssclive.org. Simmons College, in collaboration with the Angela Project, presents the 400th year commemoration ceremony on Tuesday, August 20th at noon at the St. Stephen Baptist Church. Come on out and witness a coming together of all bodies of Christ as we commemorate the 400th year of slavery in America. Live streaming will be available on the Simmons College website. Be sure to get your book today on barnesandnoble.com. It's back. Simmons College of Kentucky presents the West Louisville Forum. Join us on Wednesday, August 7th at noon as we go in asking the question, does implicit bias exist in journalism? Mark your calendars and make plans to attend.
Enjoy the rest of your shift. Bye.
So this is it.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's Hump Day.
Woo-woo!
Do you know what day it is, Pastor Ken?
What day is
The
it?
day is Hump
It's Hump Day.
That's right. So Hump Day, and we are here Wednesday, 1:30. You know where we are. This is Hump Day, and we have Sunday school time just for you. We are going to continue with the 40 days of prayer. If you don't have the book, again, let me encourage you to get the book. You need to have the book. We're on day 20. And you need this, but hey, if you haven't read it, you can catch up. It doesn't take any time. It's a little reading. There's something for each day. So I encourage you can stop by any St. Stephen campus and get a copy, or you can stop by Simmons and get your copy. So do that. Keep it in your library, because you'll need this. Good information in here. We're going to continue. We are on lesson 4, week number 4. Of the 400th year commemoration of black enslavement in America. And we have as our guest today, our guest teacher, our guest instructor, our guest Pastor Ken Job. And yes, I'm going to say it, this brother is bad.
Oh, bless you.
He is actually Kevin Cosby's brother from another mother. But he is the executive vice president at Simmons College. He is executive assistant to the pastor here at St. Stephen. And I'm telling you, I know some of you were at your own church, but if he didn't preach a word at 11:30 service on Sunday, Kim,
God is good. God is good.
Yeah. I've had some people say, "Who is that? Was that a guest?" I said, that wasn't no guest. That's St. Stephen's own. So we're happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's a delight to be here.
All right. And another thing, he wrote these lessons that we've been studying right here. So we know we've got the main person today. We got the expert.
God bless you.
Our lesson today, what does the Bible mean by slave? Woo, what does the Bible mean by slave?
Well, it's an interesting thing, Minister Geneva. When you read the word slave in the Bible, that it's one word, but it has many uses,
okay,
many applications, many different definitions of what the Bible is talking about
okay,
when it uses the term slave. And we need to really look at the context around the word to tell us more about what precisely is being discussed.
Oh, okay. So our lesson is going to come from Leviticus chapter 25, 35 through 55. Now, we may not stay right there. We kind of jump around here. So get your Bible, get your pencils, get your highlight, get everything. You might want to use a couple of pens just in case, your ink runs out, because we've got a wealth of information here from you from Pastor Ken. Now, we're going to start. I am just still mindful of Corey Bailey. He has the Monday Millennium Ministry, and that shows at 6 o'clock, and they do the same lesson. The other week, when we talked about Joseph, I was watching his online live streaming rather, and he talked about Joseph. Got thrown in. Well, of course because you wrote it, and they sat down, and Joseph cried out, and he asked a pertinent question. I think it has been hanging with me ever since. How could they sit down after throwing their brother in the well and eat and then get up and sell him into slavery? And he said the answer is, and the Spirit revealed to him that they were able to do it because they didn't see him as a brother.
Wow.
Whoa,
Wow.
and that has hung with me. And many times, we used to sing that old song in Sunday school when I was growing up. Red or yellow, black and white, all are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children
Of the world. Yes.
But somehow or another, we don't see each other. Now, I said this is a brother from another mother, and that's the way we ought to see.
Exactly.
Because I love some Pastor Ken. Y'all probably got that by now, but I do. But we don't see each other as God wants us to see. Because if I saw you as my brother, I wouldn't mistreat my brother, or would I?
No, I think you're exactly right on the point here. That just as Joseph's brothers would not have been able to sell him into slavery if they understood what that relationship was all about, it's the same for us today.
Right. And I know, I also jot down, I said, because 1 Peter 4:8 says, love covers a multitude of sins. So if we loved each other like we're supposed to, then we wouldn't be so ready to point a finger and say, okay, and seeing each other as a brother. And that's one of the first things that I noticed in this lesson, because it says if one of your fellow Israelites fall into poverty and cannot support himself, if we would just do things God's way.
Wow. Right.
We wouldn't have people sleeping under the bridge and
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Support him as you would a foreigner or a temporary resident, and allow him to, what was that?
Live with you.
Live with you.
Now, right there, that sentence is going to unlock the key to the rest of the lesson.
Okay, unlock it.
Okay, if one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and cannot support himself, right? So this is a situation of economic extremity.
Okay.
I find myself poverty stricken.
Okay.
I can't borrow any more money. I can't produce any more money. I cannot support even myself. Then we're told, fellow Israelites, support him as you would a foreigner or temporary resident, and allow him to live with you. Don't charge him interest.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Don't try to make a profit at his expense.
Right.
Don't build an industry out of his misfortune.
All right.
Ouch.
Ooh.
Right?
That's nasty.
But treat him like you would treat somebody who's a foreigner who's just coming in, and you've already been instructed to treat the foreigner with hospitality.
Yes.
You never know, you might be entertaining an angel unaware.
Well, that's what it.
Like Abraham did.
Like he did. Absolutely. Well, what happened that we do not? Because let's say it says support him as you would a foreigner. Maybe that's the problem today. We are treating each other as we would a foreigner or a temporary resident. Because you're not faring too well over here in America with that.
Right. So we've lost touch with this completely. As a matter of fact, the word says that, oh my goodness, treat the exile, treat the refugee, treat the immigrant with special hospitality. Hospitality, not hostility.
Ooh.
Right? Hospitality.
Drop the mic on that one.
So be welcoming and help these folk out, because you do not know who's going to bless you.
That's right. And you do not know when the rug can come out from under you.
Oh, mercy. And you'll be the next
and
refugee.
You'll be the next refugee.
Or you'll be the next one that falls into poverty.
That's exactly right.
So it's an economic circumstance. Let me say that again.
Say that again.
It's a circumstance. It's not who I am.
Right.
It's what's happened to me.
That's right.
And I may have had a hand in it. Maybe, maybe I spent my money foolishly. Maybe I tried to start a, snow cone business in Alaska. Something just didn't work out.
Didn't click out.
But it's not that now I should forever after be stuck in this situation. This is actually a means to help pull me out of poverty.
Exactly.
Don't lock me into poverty. Help pull me out of it.
But we lock each other in it. It's kind of like, well, you should have known you couldn't make a snowball in Alaska. We begin to look down, and then somebody may swoop in and keep you down.
Right. And that's sinful.
Yes. All right.
That is sinful.
Because I was looking down here. It says, remember, do not charge interest on money you lend him or make a profit on food. Oops. You sell him.
Right.
Okay. I love that part. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you. You didn't work for it. You didn't earn it. You couldn't buy it. I've promised I'd give it to you. Make your enemies lay down. I give you the land of Canaan and to be your God.
And I didn't set you free from Egypt just so you could turn around and exploit somebody else.
That's right.
You should know what it feels like to be exploited. You should know what it feels like to not have hope in a situation.
Yes.
Since you have that knowledge, you should be able to treat the stranger with respect and dignity and honor.
There you go. There you go. And yet, and I think that God frowns more on, let's say, he delivered me out of, let's say I had cancer, I was sick.
Okay.
And then he delivered me, raised me up. And then I come along and see the next person. He saved me just so that I could be a testimony to his power.
Yes.
But yet turn around and say, well, you should have gone and got the mammogram. You should have. We just don't have that compassion for each other.
Wow. That's true.
And I think this is what God keeps trying to get us to see. Because he said, if one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and is forced to sell himself to you, do not treat him as a slave. Treat him as a hired worker or a temporary resident. That means if I work, pay me.
Exactly. Right.
Don't take advantage of my situation.
Right. You are not to gain because of my difficult situation.
Okay.
Right? So
absolutely.
Now, it turns out this passage that begins in verse 39, this little paragraph, if one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty, sometimes they get pushed into poverty. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
But if they fall into poverty and is forced to sell himself to you, which was the eventuality, if I can't pay any of my debts, if I can't pay you back what I owe you, then all I've got to sell is me, which means, what I can do for you.
Right.
So he's forced to sell himself to you. Don't treat him like a slave. So this is a condition that we would call servitude.
Servitude.
Involuntary servitude.
Servitude, right.
And as we'll notice as we go on, treat him like a hired worker or a temporary resident who lives with you, and he'll serve you only till the year Jubilee.
Yes.
Which means the most you can possibly get out of me is 6 years.
6 years. 6 years.
At
After
the end,
that,
I'm done.
I'm done.
We're done. At the end of
Absolutely.
6 years, I'm to be set free because the debt, the debt is going to be canceled.
That's right.
The
And
year
if he brought
Jubilee
his family
cancels
in
it.
with you, his family leaves with him. You can't say, I'll keep your kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So verse 42 says, the people of Israel are my servants.
Whoa.
This is God speaking.
There it is.
Saying, the people of Israel are My servants.
My servants.
They're not your servants. They're my servants.
Because what did he say? He said, 'Cause I brought them out.
I brought them out of Egypt, so they must never be sold as slaves. God says, you can't sell my stuff.
That's right. You can't steal my stuff.
What if I sell your car? What if I don't ask your permission and I run out here and sell your car?
I go get the police.
All right, exactly.
That's right.
Because that's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair to sell somebody else's stuff. Okay, the people of Israel, they're God's. They belong to God.
Yeah.
I'm not able to sell God's stuff. So that's hands off.
That's good.
That's hands off.
Uh-huh.
So I cannot take the place of God by trying to compel somebody to do something for me that God already owns.
I've already owned. There you go.
They belong to God.
And so you cannot take. In fact, even we, as sinful as we are, have a law against taking somebody's stuff and selling it.
Sure.
And as sinful as we are, you can't.
And everybody knows that ain't right.
That ain't right.
Everybody knows that you've crossed a line when you start selling somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Right there.
Right there.
Okay, now, verse 44, then, however.
Yeah, there's a however.
It's a big however.
It's a biggie.
However, you may purchase.
May.
Exactly. You don't have to. This is not a command to go out and purchase. It says you may purchase male and female slaves from among the nations around you. Wait a minute. You may also purchase the children of temporary residents who live among you. You may treat them as your property. I'm in the word here.
Yeah, you are.
You may treat them as your property, passing them on to your children as a permanent inheritance. You may treat them as You may treat them as slaves. But you must never treat your fellow Israelite that way.
Okay, unpack that. Because I hear some people thinking, what did he just read?
But pull up a chair, because this is going to take a minute. Pull up a chair, okay?
Loosen the tie if you need to.
Now, exactly. Why is it that God says Israelites? Okay, no, you cannot enslave an Israelite. And so through the Bible, there is, strictly speaking, as you and I would commonly use the term, strictly speaking, there's no such thing as an Israelite slave owned by an Israelite.
Right.
That's prohibited. That's
prohibited.
not supposed to take place. However, verse 44 begins with the word however, which means little conjunction that says, we've been going this way, but now we want to bring you over this way. On the other hand, you may purchase, you may write a check, you may put them on your master, you may purchase male and female slaves from among the nations around you. So it's not okay to have an Israelite slave, but it is okay to have a slave from the nations around you.
No, I don't want to interrupt your thought, Carl. I want you to stick a pin and stay there.
Sure.
Because it jumped just out of me. You said it again 2 times, maybe 3 times now. You may purchase male and female slaves from among the nations around you. It does not say you can go steal.
No. Now watch this.
Yeah.
Now this gets a little sticky right here. You may purchase the slaves from a slave trader, which we saw those Ishmaelites were slave traders.
Right.
Took them down to Egypt. So they're saying you can participate in the slave trade.
Woo!
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is this the Bible?
That is the Bible. Yeah.
Reading the Bible.
I got the Bible here too.
There's some surprises in the Bible. Now, you may purchase these slaves. And we're going to find out a little bit later that slaves may be taken as an act of war. So
yes, right. That's so different.
You may have prisoners of war. And in that situation, it often boiled down to the foreign soldier or the foreign person could be either killed, that is exterminated, or taken as a slave.
Right.
And sometimes you get the choice. Would you rather be killed or would you rather be enslaved?
Yeah, because see, you had your foot on their neck and you could do that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that's another expression of slavery in the Old Testament, was an expression of those who had been taken as prisoners of war or plunder from war. So, and that could include men, women, children. That was all part of the having been conquered experience.
Right.
Now.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about something else. We're talking about slaves that have been purchased.
Purchased, right.
Now, Israelites, non-Israelites, don't treat an Israelite like a slave. You may treat a foreigner like a slave. However, we had this idea that if a foreigner comes to you, you should welcome them with hospitality.
Seems a little
now, there's some kind of contradiction here that's going to take a minute to work out.
Work it out.
Now, let's hold that for just a moment.
All right.
As we look at the different categories of slavery.
Okay, let's do it.
That we have in our lesson.
Okay.
And once again, we're taking a look at Leviticus chapter 25.
Right.
I think chapter 25, some selected verses. Interesting thing about Leviticus 25 is that the inscription on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia,
right,
which is inscribed to proclaim liberty throughout the land, that comes from this chapter. That comes from Leviticus chapter 25.
Okay.
I think it's like verse 10, so somewhere in there. It says to proclaim liberty throughout the land. Okay, the rest of this chapter is talking mainly about folk who are not going to have any liberty in their land. It's talking about the conditions under which slavery is going to exist. And so can we get into the little bit more of the lesson here?
Sure.
We've talked about the temporary indentured Hebrew servants.
Right, we talked about them.
We've talked about them. They get to be freed after 6 years of service. They are to be treated well, because you're basically, as an indentured servant, you are being taught economic principles.
And what we failed to mention, no, we said when he leaves, he owes you nothing, but you are to give him a generous farewell gift.
Yes, yes.
Just like we saw with after Jacob had put himself into Laban's hire.
Right, right.
Of course, he cheated him out of some of it.
Well,
stuff,
there's
but
that.
Hey, there's always that. But when he left, he gave him, because he didn't, all the flocks and stuff that he had. So you are to give a generous farewell offering.
Yes, and by the way, that is a true gift. It is not that you hold his wages and then give him all his wages at once.
No,
it's a
yours.
Gift above and beyond the wages.
Right.
You were to give your recently freed Israelite servant, you were to give them as part of the celebration.
Yes.
We are celebrating your freedom.
Your freedom.
With this gift.
So
Yes.
not just you.
Exactly.
But we are celebrating your freedom.
Right, right.
Same as the prodigal son. When he went back home, his daddy threw a party because
Killed
we're
a
going to
fatted calf.
celebrate. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
So that's that situation. Then there is another status of Hebrew slave that we did not cover in Leviticus. And that's a voluntary permanent Hebrew slave. Let's say that I get into some bad business deals. I have to declare bankruptcy. Whoops, wait a minute. There's no bankruptcy court in ancient Israel. I have to sell myself into slavery to this person to whom I owe a lot of money.
Okay.
All right. So I do that. And remember, I'm coming like an indentured servant. So I'm in the house of this person. I'm learning what they're learning. I'm doing the business that they do. I see some of the mistakes I made. I see, the tricks to the trade. Now I understand how to operate a business. But wait a minute. What if this guy is like, you know what? I like this guy. I want to stay with this guy. I want to permanently attach myself to my master. Well, there was an opportunity for you to do that.
Right.
And it meant that you went over and stood by the door while you got an awl, which is like a little punch. And you stick your earlobe next to the door and then run the awl through your earlobe to pierce your ear.
So piercing ears is not a new thing.
Not a new thing. Not a new thing. However, this was not like
was different.
just going to the mall.
No.
This big old rusty awl that you puncture the earlobe with.
Right.
And it was actually designed to draw blood. And so some of that blood would drop then on the doorpost. Do you remember any other place where there was blood on a doorpost?
Oh,
wait a minute.
Coming out of Egypt.
Absolutely, with the Passover, right?
Right.
So the idea here is that the slave is becoming a part of the household of the master, and so now is under the master permanently. It's permanent and it's voluntary.
Right. Absolutely.
Now there's some historians would say that this was something that was used very, very, very rarely. It was not the normal way of doing things, but a provision was made that if you wanted to stick it out and stay with this master, then for the rest of your life, you would be a part of that household.
Let me just jump in here because it made me think of somebody who actually did this. Of course, we are supposed to, but that's what Paul was talking about when he said, I don't want to hear no more of what you all talking about, whether I'm apostle, not an apostle. He said, I got the scars to show.
There we go.
There it is.
Exactly.
Not only my back, but on my ear as well.
Yes.
Because I'm a slave of Jesus Christ.
A bondservant.
There you
Doulos,
go.
absolutely.
Yeah.
See how this all hangs together?
It hangs together.
This is we're reaching way back in the Old Testament.
Grabbing back here and
it goes all the way through.
All the way
this is this is good stuff.
It's good stuff.
All right.
All right.
Now there's another status of slave in the Bible, and that is slavery as restitution for a criminal. So if I steal something and I can't pay it back, or it's all gone, then as part of my making restitution for the crime of theft, I can be put into slavery.
Right.
So that was a third different type of slavery that occurs in the Bible. But the fourth is this notion that we're introduced here in Leviticus 25.
But before we go there,
okay,
let's go back to what you just said. If I can't make restitution, the 13th Amendment.
Oh, watch this. Keep going.
Says that, here's what it says: neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Any place subject to their if they can't pay it, they've been convicted.
Am I reading this right?
You're reading it right.
I got to look here. It's the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America preserves the right to hold slaves as punishment for a crime. So the federal government can make you work in federal prison
and not
for
pay you.
no money.
That's right.
And they get to keep the profits from it.
Well, no wonder we see mass incarceration.
Things are starting to make more sense.
Make some sense now, don't it?
Okay. Look at that. All right.
Now go on and make your point.
I don't know about people that say Bible study's boring.
Ooh, I don't either.
Every day I'm finding stuff like, oh, mercy. Okay.
I say all the time, if you really want the good stuff, put down Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful and all that. Pick up the Bible.
There we go. There we go.
It'll surprise you what you can find out in the Bible.
Now watch this. This is what we're finding very interesting. You cannot have an Israelite slave. There is, according to the Bible, no such thing, because no Israelite is supposed to own another Israelite, because God already owns them.
Right? That's right.
So you were bought at a price.
Yeah. Ooh,
now,
that's
however, for non-Hebrew slaves, there were permanent non-Hebrew slaves. They did not get automatically released after 6 years. They could be treated as property. They could be left as an inheritance to the next generation coming up. They did not have to be treated well by the Israelite. They were in a separate category. They were forced to do labor. By the way, did you know the temple, Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, was built with slave labor?
Right. Yes, it was.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Let's take this even a little further. Even after the northern kingdom in the Old Testament, the northern kingdom was overthrown 722 BC. The southern kingdom overthrown in 586 BC. After the Jews were taken captive in Babylon, they were in the Babylonian captivity for 70 years.
Yes.
Then they come back, and the book of Nehemiah tells us that the returning Jews, returning out of exile in Babylon, they came back and they still had slaves.
And they brought the slaves back with them.
And they brought the slaves back with them.
Absolutely. They took, in other words, they took their slaves with them into Babylon.
And
brought them back.
Brought them back home 70 years later. So the institution of slavery held through even the Babylonian captivity. And as a matter of fact, 15% of the people that came back from Babylon, came back to Jerusalem from Babylonian captivity, 15% of them were slaves.
Were slaves. 15%.
Wow.
And that's a lot of people.
And by the way, the slaves are mentioned in the book of Nehemiah. They're mentioned along with the livestock. They're mentioned along with, we got this many horses came back, this many mules, this many camels, this many donkeys. Oh, this many slaves.
Yeah, we got this many slaves.
Now, all right.
Ooh-wee. Read the Bible, folks.
Okay. We only got another 10 minutes. How we make sense of all this?
Okay,
how do we make sense of the fact that, first of all, the term slavery is being used, applied in so many different circumstances in the Bible. So you have to be careful to read the context in which we're talking about. Are we talking about Israelites and Israelites? That's one set of circumstance. Are we talking about Israelites who have committed a crime? That's another circumstance. Israelites who may have been taken prisoner in war. Or are we talking about prisoners of war or purchased from surrounding nations, Gentiles?
Right.
So are we talking about Gentile slaves of Israelite masters? How can that all be there? Now, all right. Why didn't God, in writing the 10 Commandments, take just another minute
just another little
and
thing
add the 11th commandment, which would be, don't do this slavery thing.
Yeah, thou shalt not
do slavery. Don't do slavery.
Yeah.
That would only make it 11. You can still remember 11.
We can remember that.
You know what?
Remember 10.
So why was there not an 11th commandment that said, thou shalt not participate in slavery? Or let's do number 12. 12 is a good biblical number.
Yeah.
Why weren't there 12 commandments?
Yeah.
The 12th one. The 12th one would be number 11. Don't buy slaves. Number 12. Don't sell slaves. Then you got it covered.
Slavery is out.
And you got 12 commandments.
There you go.
It's a biblical number.
Makes good. Make good sense to me.
Sounds good to me.
But he didn't ask us.
Why? He didn't.
No.
Well, let me offer an idea here.
Okay, let me hear it.
The idea is this, that throughout the ancient Near East, I mean, the Bible is an account of a small group of people, the Israelites, in a large group of people that included everybody in the ancient Near East, Egyptians, Mesopotamians, all these other cultures, and all of these other cultures held to the institution of slavery. In this little tiny country, at the intersection of 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa, this little tiny country came up with a chink in the armor of the institution of slavery. And it's just a little dent in slavery. And it says this, okay, for this people group, Israelites, we're changing the institution of slavery. For just this little group of people, slavery is not going to be your identity. Slavery is only going to be your circumstance.
Okay.
For a little while.
Little while.
And God says, there. Run with that. Let's see what you do with that. Because watch, in every other country, millions of people in the ancient world, slavery was a fact of life. It was just the way the economy worked. It's the way the culture worked. The society was built on slavery. But in this one little tiny country, in a little corner of the world that happened to be the crossroads of the world, God says, for you, it's going to be different. Slavery is not going to mean the same thing to you that it means for everybody else. And then God steps back and allows humanity to let that sink in for a minute. There are some things, I can tell you some stuff. You might remember it, you might not. I can give you some commands. He said, thou shalt do no murder, right? Thou shalt not. People are still killing each other.
We're still killing each other.
Okay. Now,
in a big proportion
today. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
God's strategy appears to have been this. I'm going to make a little crack in the dam. And I'm going to let a little water trickle out of the crack. I'm not going to blow up the dam. All I'm going to do is make a little hole in the dam. And then step back and allow people to say slavery is wrong instead of God to say slavery is wrong.
Let the people blow it up.
Let the people understand that it's wrong. Let the people come to the conclusion this is not right.
This is not right.
And God says, I'll make the law. I'll make the law among my people that it's not right.
Okay.
And that will be the template that, okay, other nations can see, wait a minute, they're doing something different. Wait a minute, they're prospering. Under Solomon, they're prospering. They're doing. God's looking out for these. The people that God's looking out for don't have slaves. Why don't they have slaves? Why don't they treat slaves like slaves?
Well, let's try it their way.
Maybe we should try it their way. And so I believe the evidence points us in the direction that God did not give us an 11th or 12th commandment against slavery precisely in order for us to come to the conclusion.
To the 11th and 12th without the 11th and 12th.
Exactly. Because we learn better the lessons that we figure out for ourselves than those that the answer is given to us. So now, come back at me. It's taken 4,000-6,000 years for this to sink in. Yeah, it demonstrates it's a hard lesson. We are slow learners, and it's a hard lesson. In the 21st century, there are more slaves, people held in slavery. There are more people held in slavery today than there were in previous centuries. And so the economic exploitation dimension is still there.
It's still there.
But the seeds for the downfall of slavery are sown right here in Leviticus 25.
All right.
It says, proclaim liberty throughout the land.
Throughout the land.
Right? And this is, it's not a big Liberty Bell ring, but it's just a little tiny bell that's being rung that now the people are going to be able to run with. We like to ask God, why did you allow slavery? And so God turns around and asks us, why'd you allow slavery? I never told you to keep slaves. Why did you allow it? You made the mess. You clean it up. So God's given us all the material we need in Leviticus, and Leviticus 25 gives us the, lights the fuse on the stick of dynamite that's going to blow slavery up.
That's going to blow slavery. And when we look at also the spiritual aspect of it, is that we identify when we really learn what slavery and slave are about, permanent slave or indentured servants, that then we know what we are doing when we come to Christ.
Wow.
And put ourselves and see him as our master. And we see ourselves as his servant or his bond servant or his slave. Then we catch that we don't serve, we serve him, and by serving him, we serve everybody else.
Exactly. That is beautifully put. That is precisely the lesson that we need to walk away with.
That's the lesson that we need to walk away
that
with.
We are servants of Christ.
And we were sold. And he purchased us.
Woo.
He purchased us, so we now belong to him.
So therefore, we cannot voluntarily become the slaves of anyone else.
Of anyone else.
We once were slaves to sin.
Yes.
And we are no longer by the blood of Jesus Christ.
But he bought us at the auction block.
That's, oh, mercy, yes.
On the auction block, and now we belong to him, so nobody else can lay claim to us.
Amen.
All right.
Wow.
Oh, that was a good lesson. Y'all didn't know it was going to be quite that good. I told you, he's the boss. And we certainly want to thank you, Pastor Ken, for coming and being a part of it.
It has been a pleasure.
Today. It was great, and we want you, remind you again, get your book, and on August the 20th, here at St. Stephen Church, we will do the 400th year commemoration of slavery. It will be held at noon on August the 20th, starting at noon on August 20th. You'll hear more about it, and we invite you to come and be a part. Now, next week, Simmons will start back there, West End Farm, right?
That's correct, on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, it will start at 12 noon. We will be here at 1:30. If you click us on and we running a little bit late, don't get all uptight. We are coming. Help is on the way. So we invite you to come back next week, and we will talk about slave trader. I believe that's the next one is slave trader, and all that my sisters and brothers. I think I got just a minute to say this. You remember in last week's lesson when Exodus chapter 3 verse 7 and 8. When he said that I have heard their cry, I've seen, I've heard, I know what's going on, that I am come down to see about you. I said next week's lesson is him coming down to see about us. And in fact, it's called Slave Trader. I almost renamed that thing The Big Payback.
Oh, yeah.
The Big Payback. Because, come on, tune in next week, you'll see The Big Payback. I'm like, God told, James Brown said it, but I think he probably got it from God. I don't know karate, but I know Coraza. And God knows Coraza, he's going to cut next week. See you then. Thank you, Pastor Ken.
Thank you.